Ready when you guys are.
Well, Coach, first off, just give your overall assessment of this recruiting class.
Well, I'm very excited about this year's class. I think, coming off the year that we had this past year and being able to, our brand name, Emporia State football, is definitely out there. People are aware of our program, and that definitely has helped. I'm excited about these guys. It's not a real big class, but at the same time, when I look at it, I see a lot of guys, and you got to kind of forecast things. But I do see a lot of talent in this class to where maybe after their redshirt year, they're going to have an opportunity to contribute immediately. In years past, comparing classes, there might be more guys that it might take 2 or 3 years down the road that you're going to be in a lot more of a developmental mode. And I don't see that in this year's class. I see players that are going to have that opportunity to play possibly early. And we got a lot of guys on the team right now, and there's a lot of competition, which makes players better.
With the small class, obviously, that means there are some guys that were redshirted last year that are going to maybe get an opportunity to maybe see some more playing time. But overall, with this particular class, was there anything special you were looking for?
Well, we always kind of set a plan in place in the summertime and really at the beginning of the summer, really as far as like what going into the recruiting season from a standpoint of separating it too, between high school and transfers. We keep that separate. But so we knew we wanted to sign one quarterback. We thought maybe early on we would sign maybe more than 2 running backs, but then we just said, hey, we got a lot of guys coming back at that position, and we went after one quarterback. You always want to sign a good number of offensive and defensive linemen just because they're such a commodity in recruiting. And then looking at our depth, we knew we needed to get some secondary players as well. So, a lot of things that really are that you have to look at before you get into the recruiting process. And number one is you got to look and see how much scholarship, how many scholarships that you have available. And that's we do have a cap in Division II. I know it's not like we can just go out and get whoever we want. You got to be very specific. You got to manage your scholarships kind of like a general manager, and because all the scholarships are broke up differently and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it, as far as like, and then looking at where you're at depth-wise at different positions within our football program. But the one thing and you hit on it, the red shirts, we have players that are staying here at Emporia State. Our retention is good. And I think winning has a lot to do with that.
Obviously, one of the names that's probably most visible to most of the general public around here anyway, Dalton Cowan from Seaman. I'm assuming he'll probably redshirt that first year, but what kind of plans do you have envisioned for him? He'll have that 1 year, if all goes well, overlapping with a healthy Braxton as well. What kind of vision do you have for that young man? Because obviously that's probably the name that pops off the page the most.
Well, as you know, Stephen, really for having good quarterback play is vitally important when it comes to winning football games, and we've been very lucky here to have now adding Braxton to the mix. The last 3 quarterbacks here have been pretty good, really have set the standard really high here, and I think Dalton fits that mold of these guys, as far as like he's somebody that we have actually evaluated for 2 years in a 2-year process, and that's because you always want to find out as much as you can about him, both on and off the field. And I've been able to kind of watch him grow as a player from his junior year to senior year, and how much better he's gotten from summer to summer. And that tells me that he has a great work ethic. I've seen he's got a big arm, strong arm, and I think mechanically he's a little bit ahead of the game. There's definitely some things he's going to have to work on, but again, I see him as somebody that, even at that, and we have some other guys that are here right now too, but he's a guy that can come in and compete. That's the thing about it, and we want it to be, as I say, a quarterback is really a position here that has had a lot of success, and those guys, and I think part of it is because of the competition. Guys that aren't afraid to compete, they're ready to come in. I think he's just going to be one of those guys going to be added to the mix.
What about I know you don't like to pinpoint individuals, but
right.
As far as this particular recruiting class, are there a couple of guys that maybe that you're really excited about having gotten signed?
Well, I'm always going to start in-state first because we always want to get the best talent we can in the state of Kansas. And, I think we did a really good job up in the Topeka area. A lot of those players, we were on in the summertime. And that's been huge for us. We really kind of pride ourselves as a coaching staff with developing relationships with players and, kind of really actually not just talking about it, but actually, letting recruits kind of see how we actually do things here. And so I'm really excited about those guys up in Topeka. I think we got since I've been here, I think we got best group of recruits up in that area that we've had since I've been here, like I said. And then, I look at somebody like Stetson Roberts from Wamego, who, again, a player that was at our camp, and we knew that he was going to be somebody that was going to have to develop. But really, his senior film was a lot different than his junior film. I mean, he got a lot better, and that was good to see. So he's another player that, of course, we're excited about, and he's definitely got a long ways to go. Looking at those with how we did in the state, and there was some different dynamics going into recruiting this year because of the new junior college rule. We didn't run into the junior colleges as much as we did in the past, and same. But I always refer back to we do have a cap. It's not like we can just take them all, or I would love to do that, but. And we went down and hit Oklahoma very hard as usual. If you look at kind of our team makeup, there's definitely a lot of Kansas kids, of course, but we hit the state of Oklahoma pretty hard down there. There's probably a reason why. I don't know what that might be, connection maybe, but we've got some good talent out of there. We've always been able to grab that talent out of there. And again, I think players, recruits, they know about our brand. They know about Emporia State football, and that helps. And then always going to grab a couple of good players, try to out of the state of Texas. And we actually got up to Chicago this year and tried to use, again, just trying to stretch our scholarships the best way we can. Chicago's an area that we can attack, I think, and maybe kind of get our foot in the door. We hadn't really been up there before, and it's nice to kind of go up there. We've got a couple really good players, defensive players, that I think are going to have an immediate impact at some point here at Emporia State, and I think that's going to be more early than later.
And I know they're not necessarily expecting an immediate impact out of them, but I really wanted to touch on the three kind of local kids too. Bryce Crouch, Sam Dobbins, and Clayton Fowler, and just get the thoughts on being able to, at the very least, bring them into the fold and give them opportunity to work with you guys and see what they have.
Well, I think players like that who are, number one is they're excited about Emporia State. I'm all about players, recruits, their families that are fired up about coming to school here, and those are our local players, as those guys that you talked about. Those guys are all, they fit in that mold. They're all going to be redshirted. They're all going to be players that hopefully develop into a player such as Cole Shanky. 5 years ago when we signed him, coming from a small school, 15, 20 miles down the road, developed into an all-conference player. That's what you hope is going to happen. And again, just a lot of those guys too grew up around Emporia State football. They've been able to come to our camps and been able to come to games because they're not very far away. So anytime you can get players like that, and then hopefully they develop into contributors in the future.
Okay, let's assess the 2012 and the 2013 recruiting classes. Now that they've been through it, how would you assess those two classes? Or am I taking you too far back?
No, well, you are. I am getting old, Greg. My mind is not like it used to be. But going back, that 2012, 2013, I'm trying to pinpoint some of those guys that might be in that class that I'm thinking. But, you're saying those are the class we put together after that fall, right?
Yeah.
So you're comparing those early classes to this year's
the ones
class.
Who would have either just graduated or would be seniors.
Right. Well, the difference I see is kind of what I touched on early, is that I think in 2012 and 2013, we had players such as Mitch Foote. These are guys just coming to mind. Sean Richardson, not Sean Richardson, but Justin Brown, Braxton Marstall, Cole Shanky. And again, some of them came in different times, but they were some of those players were players that we felt like were going to develop into great players here, that were going to take their time. And Cole Schenke was one of those guys. And of course, with Mitch, I felt like that he was going to be an impact guy, but it did take him a while. Same thing with Justin. I see more of those guys. I see more impact guys in this class than I did in 2012 and 2013. Now, those classes back then were very, very good, very talented. If you go back and look at the guys that have performed for us and made all conference, or guys that were really difference makers, or guys that are in our program 4 to 5 years, for the most part. So that's the thing about it. There's always impact players in every class. I just feel good about we got a number of them in this year's class, maybe more than we did back in those 2 years.
All right.